Okay. Whoops. Wanted to make sure we're here. Okay. So, about half of the Jews that lived in Germany, so a little more than 500,000, and about 2/3 of the Jews that live in Austria are going to be able to successfully escape from the Nazis. This is, of course, over the span of a few years, right? As I mentioned earlier, the Germans were making it more and more difficult for the Jews to leave, but the ones who got out early were lucky enough to get out in time. It's also worth noting, of course, that a lot of countries, especially the major countries that we think of when we think of the Allies, were not really welcoming to large numbers of Jews coming in. So these Jews are getting desperate. They're saying, these horrible things are happening. We really, really want to come into your country. And a lot of nations, including the United States, are saying, no, thank you. There's a lot of different reasons why the United States are going to be resistant to welcoming in these groups of people. One is, of course, anti-Semitism. Unfortunately, anti-Semitism exists in a lot of different places, and the United States is not immune to it. Anti-Semitism has been around for a while. Remember, that's the hatred of Jews. Big, major people, major players like Henry Ford are going to spend millions of dollars circulating propaganda, anti-Semitism propaganda against the Jews. So a lot of people in the United States simply are, not unwilling to accept the Jews because they just don't like the Jews. Also, remember that the Great Depression is still going on, which means that a lot of people are unemployed, which means that the jobs that do exist in the United States are sacred. And what people are afraid of is that if we let in a bunch of people, if we can't take care of ourselves, how are we supposed to compete against other people coming in and fighting for the few jobs that do actually exist? So a variety of reasons the United States is unwilling to help and unwilling to kind of step it up there. One way the United States did attempt to help this whole issue going on right here is the Wagner-Rogers bill, okay? The Wagner-Rogers bill. And under the Wagner-Rogers bill, what the United States would agree to do is increase the amount of Jewish children that we would let in. So at this point, we have quotas for people coming from different areas and stuff like this. And what the Wagner-Rogers bill would do is increase that quota by 20,000 and allow 20,000 extra Jewish children to come into our country within a 1-year span. As you see there, 39 to 1940. Okay, so that's the plan. A lot of Jewish people are trying to get away. People are trying to send their children away. Why not accept in more than we usually do? Let's make an exception. That's what the Wagner-Rogers bill says. However, it's struck down. It never actually gets passed, and its most outspoken kind of opponent is of course a North Carolina senator named Robert Reynolds. So here, shout out to North Carolina, not really a great thing. Robert Reynolds is going to block that and say, listen, we don't need more Jews coming into this country. We can't handle it. We don't want that. No, and he successfully gets that bill struck down. It never passes, and the Wagner-Rogers bill does not end up helping. Robert Reynolds, of course, has very close ties to Nazi leaders and was an anti-Semite himself. One popular quote that gets tossed around when we're talking about the debate over whether or not the Wagner-Rogers bill should pass, one senator said, 200,000 ugly Jewish children would all too soon grow up into 20,000 ugly Jewish adults. This is open rhetoric that's taking place in the United States Congress. And it just shows the hatred, anti-Semitism, and the acceptance of that. Right? It's not a good look for us. Not a good look for us here. As the Holocaust increases, the Germans, are going to gradually start to transition to Hitler's final solution. The final solution includes killing all inferior people out, wiping not only Germany, not only the immediate empire, but also the entire world of all inferiors. Prior to the final solution, the Nazis were sending the Jews to labor camps, to work camps, to these concentration camps where they would do a lot of work for the war effort. And while that is still taking place, the final solution includes kind of pivoting from less labor camps to more of the straight extermination camps, the camps where the only objective is to kill people. Genocide is the deliberate extermination of a specific group of people. We'll continue to see examples of this, but genocide is an important word that North Carolina likes you guys to know. So just know what that means. And that the Nazi goal of genocide was to eliminate all inferiors. So everyone left is, Aryan and perfect in their mind. This is going to inevitably lead to, as I mentioned earlier, 11 million people across multiple different demographics, primarily the Jews, also prisoners of war, homosexuals, the mentally disabled, the physically disabled, Jehovah's Witnesses, African Americans, anyone who didn't fit into their Aryan race were going to be victims. First step, ghettos. This is going to be these kind of think of it as like house arrest, but on a grander scale. Think of it as if your whole neighborhood was put under house arrest and a wall just went up around your neighborhood to keep you in. It's basically a large-scale prison. Lots of disease, not a lot of food. This is kind of the waiting area. Think of it as the waiting area for the trains to come and pick them up and take them to concentration camps. This is where the Jews are housed before they're taken to the concentration camps. Now that, of course, the final solution has been implemented, now that the Nazis have transitioned from working to extermination purely, the number one objective for the Nazis is kill as many people as efficiently and quickly as possible, and that's exactly what starts to happen. 6 major killing centers, Auschwitz being the most infamous for the highest number of deaths that take place there. Interestingly enough, these killing centers are located in Poland, not Germany. Germans were trying their best to kind of keep their dirty laundry in another area. Very, very efficient system that the SS that ran the camps came up with. The procedure was very, very similar. It would repeat over and over and over again. Jews and other victims would arrive on railroad cars. They would be separated based on gender, men going one way, women and children going the other. If it was a work camp, the men, women, and children would be selected that could actually work. They would be sent to receive some kind of work orders and be transitioned in. Others would be sent to the execution area. But after the transition to final solution, where the only goal is to kill them, it would be a very, very streamlined system. Men to one side, women and children to the other. They would be told that they're about to take a shower. They'd be told to undress. They would leave all their belongings in kind of like a locker room kind of thing. And then they'd be herded into these gas chambers that, if you look at it, I guess they kind of do look like showers, right? And a couple people walk in, about the amount you would think would be in there for a shower, and then more and more people are shoved in continually. You're shoulder to shoulder with people in some cases. The door would shut. Most of the time it'd be pitch black. A little latch in the ceiling would open, and a little tiny tablet, looks kind of like Alka-Seltzer, would get dropped in from the ceiling. This would be Zyklon B, and it would begin to interact with the environment. It'd become very, very hard to breathe. People would start to asphyxiate, and people would die, fall on the ground, and pass away. After long after the gas has had a chance to kind of kill everybody in the room and then eventually kind of dissipate, the rooms would be open again, and not SS members, but usually other Jewish prisoners would be tasked with taking those bodies and disposing of them. Originally, the Nazis, started with these mass graves and stuff, but that takes a lot of time to build. It also leaves a lot of evidence behind. So what the Nazis did was try to find easier ways, more efficient ways to get rid of the bodies. Really interesting poll right here. 1944, we ask Americans, do you believe that the Germans have murdered many people in concentration camps? 76% of people believed it was true. By May 1945, do you believe the stories of the Germans have killed many people in concentration camps or let them starve to death? 84% believed it was true. 9% said it's true but exaggerated. A few people didn't think so, but overwhelming majority. We knew what was going on. We didn't know the scope, and we were horrified to find out. But Americans did understand that something was going wrong in Nazi Germany, that the Jews particularly were being targeted. And it's really, really, hindsight, but it's really, really embarrassing that some of these countries didn't, do more to intervene there. When the Allies eventually showed up to liberate these camps, they found piles and piles, thousands and thousands of belongings. These are a pile of shoes, right? More shoes, wedding rings, eyeglasses. Of course, we found the crematoriums, the ovens. This was the most efficient way the Nazis found at killing bodies. They would put the bodies in, ash would come out, and we end up finding, look at this pile, of ash. Thousands of people just left there. Of course, some of the less sophisticated camps would still have just, bodies just laying everywhere. Right, these mass graves. We've seen these pictures before. They're horrifying. But when we did liberate the camps, some of these people were so skinny they were basically, corpses that were still alive, right? So skinny, skin and bones. A lot of the people who were alive when we liberated the camps end up passing away later just because of long-term malnutrition. Their bodies can't react properly to food anymore, or they overeat or overdrink water and end up dying by complications for that too. Here are some Soviet prisoners of war. Important to understand, remember, this is during World War II, so the Nazis are still fighting the Allies. And at this point, the Soviets are the Allies. Lots of Russian prisoners of war are going to be imprisoned in these concentration camps. That's a victim group that doesn't get as much attention as they probably should based on, the proportion. Let's review these common questions, make sure we're all on the same page. What is a Jew? It's kind of hard to say. A Jew can be someone who practices Judaism. A Jew can be someone who identifies with the culture of Judaism. A Jew can be someone who converts to that religion, or it can be someone whose parents are Jews and don't practice, right? There's a wide, assortment of what it means to be a Jew. And Hitler decides to make it a race. Could he do it? No. Did it work? Yes. Are Jews still considered a race by a lot of people today? Yes. Why didn't Jews just leave? The Germans particularly made it harder and harder for Jews to escape, because if you think about it, if the long-term goal is to exterminate all, it's easier to keep them in Germany, keep them corralled, keep them where you need them, so you can exploit them and then later, terminate them. Why did the Germans go along with it? Hitler knew exactly how to play the Germans. He played them like a fiddle. He talked them up. He got them hyped up, their egos, stroking their egos, right? Then he, brought up, the war. He blamed it on the Jews, right? And then he used their desperation. And lastly, why didn't anyone help? The United States, along with other allied nations, did not do as much as they should have, for a variety of reasons, including anti-Semitism and also the Great Depression. I would rank the Great Depression as the number one reason that other nations, especially the United States, refused to help. Well, I'll leave it at that. Great quote about the Holocaust and how it can, really get, swept up. I'll just leave that there. All right, heavy topic. It took a while, but it is important to talk about. We don't get to go too much into it because it's a U.S. history class, but an important event, of course, to educate ourselves about, to understand, and to make sure that we don't ever repeat it. All right, y'all. Heavy stuff. I promise it'll get better. All right. Have a great day. Make sure to answer your objective questions. Bye-bye.